I don't think a lot of people know. 90% of shoppers never get past page 1.
That's true. That's why sponsored products matter so much. Relevance is going to keep declining the further down you scroll. That's a lot like walking into a physical store. The things at the front of the aisle are always going to sell better than the stuff in the middle or the end.
Nick Gezzar,
former senior account executive at Amazon
and military intelligence officer.
Equipping sellers with the right intel
for a profitable strategy with Amazon-sponsored ads.
One of the things you got to really know is ads is not really an optional part of the equation anymore.
Why is that?
There was a term we had in the Army, you have to fight for information. And that's kind of what you're doing here. To go in, spend some money, see what works, optimize from there.
As an Amazon seller's getting started, where would you say the first place to go to?
Sponsored products is table stakes. If you are going to be on Amazon, this is the bare minimum that you need to do to be relevant.
There's some people that say you cannibalize your organic trying to be the #1 sponsor. What's your opinion of that?
They call it the mere exposure effect in marketing. And what that does is it makes your brand appear more popular. This is something that I would advise every seller on Amazon to have.
So welcome back on our 4-part series on how to be a better Amazon seller and how to best use Amazon ads to your advantage. And with me, joining me in part 3 is Nick Gezzar.
Hello again.
All things Amazon ads expert. Nick, we were going to jump into sponsored brands. And I thought, why don't we use something that people like? Maybe they like to consume. Last time we talked about dogs. This time, let's jump into chocolate.
All right. I spent a couple of years in that field.
Okay. With Lindt, right? You should have some experience. So I typed in the Amazon search bar, premium dark chocolate. And what came up was premium gourmet milk and dark chocolate bar flavors. And this is a brand I have never heard of. Again, I will admit I'm not a huge chocolate fan. I do consume some, but this Perugina, is that how do you play it?
Perugina.
Perugina. So they're definitely not from the US with that name.
Oh, no. They are from Italy, and they make some pretty good chocolate. They were a big competitor of ours at Lindt, and it looks like they definitely beat Lindt on the sponsored brands bid on this search.
And it's only one product here. Is this would you say this is their hero product that they're going? I mean, they have a custom image on the left. If you're listening to this and you want to see the video, on the video we have a custom image of their, I guess, different chocolates. It looks lighter.
Mm-hmm.
I see some of the different flavors maybe that they have. And on the right, it's only one product. I find that amazing because you can put up to 3.
Yeah, that's really not necessarily a best practice. If I was them, I would want to have all 3 up there because there's a lot of varieties in dark chocolate. You can have the basic dark chocolate. You can have it in different darkness, cocoa contents. You can also have ingredients. Maybe not the best example, but that's a real life example. But let's look at this. So we type this in. It shows, that's the first thing that shows up is the Perugina and also their brand Bacci, which is a sub-brand of Perugina.
Okay.
This isn't the best execution, but we don't have to look at always textbook examples of things. It's actually great. But what this does is this drives the branding. If you are a shopper and you were looking to buy a premium dark chocolate bar, that's the first thing that shows up. You said you'd never heard of them before today.
I've never heard of them.
Next time you go to the store, you're probably just going to see it now. They call it the mere exposure effect in marketing.
Okay.
And what that does is it makes your brand appear more popular. And there was we discussed him briefly on the last episode. There is a marketing theorist named Dr. Byron Sharp. He's from Australia and has really revolutionized CPG marketing. And one of the things he said is that to grow, a brand must increase mental availability by appearing everywhere and appearing popular. You think about Coca-Cola. Every time you go to the store, how many times are you seeing those white script letters on a red background? It's probably more times than you can count. So when you think soft drinks, you think Coca-Cola. And just through that mere exposure, that's going to be the most mentally available thing to you.
So it works on you psychologically and from a mental perspective, whether it's conscious or subconscious, that you're seeing this brand where you go, the red and white, bling, 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 bling.
And the hard thing is it's harder to measure the return on that spend because that's building longer term brand associations.
Right.
So the important thing with sponsored brands is you're not going to see that same measurable ROAS that you will with sponsored products 9 times out of 10.
ROAS, return on ad spend. So let's just put some simple numbers here. Let's say I'm killing it on sponsored products and I'm getting a 10 ROAS, a 10% return, a 10x. It would be a 10x on my dollar spent. And on sponsored brands, I may be seeing 2x. Is that calibrating my expectations properly, or can I ever get to the 10x that I'm getting on sponsored products?
I would not generally advise you to expect sponsored brands to deliver the same return on ad spend as a raw statistic the way that sponsored products does. But what it can do, again, is build those mental pathways for customers to associate your brand or your product with a category and make you kind of the default in that category. I would generally expect about like half of the returns, maybe not quite as dramatic as a 10 to a 2, maybe a 10 to like a 4 or 5. But you're not doing this for those same immediate sales. It's to build the brand. And also, if we can go back to that website, can you click on the term premium gourmet milk and dark chocolate bar flavors? Yeah, there we go.
It takes us to the Amazon store for Perugina.
Exactly. Yep. And this is something that I would advise every seller on Amazon to have is a brand store. Rolando, I'm just going to go and say something nice about you here. You got a great brand store. And that really helps your business. Perugina is doing the same thing here, though, because you clicked on that. Premium dark chocolate bar is still broad. You're going to be looking at the different cocoa quantities in there, the different pack sizes.
Would you say that people that are into chocolate look at that, the 70, 80?
Absolutely. The flavor difference, immense. That 85 is going to be bitter. 70 will have a touch of sweet. Once you get down to like 50, now you're really sweet. And welcome to my chocolate podcast.
We're back with Nick Gezzar, chocolate expert, former Lindt employee, can tell us a lot about chocolate.
But you can see here, look at this variety they're showing in the second row. This is going to be enticing to customers.
Yes,
so
it is.
This really lets you get your full spread in front of them, and it's all your brand.
Do you think that their heroes are these, because what they're leading with, bittersweet chocolate, it looks like obviously the content is higher, and that's the only thing I know about chocolate is that the higher the number or the percentage, the more bitter and darker it's going to be. Is that where the action, I'm theorizing now, I would imagine that's where more sales are going to come from.
Yep. And then there's a couple different ways you could think about how you'll do your assortment here. This is a lot like merchandising in a physical store. You could you could just put your already existing top sellers in the top row and just kind of continue that goodness, keep milking those cash cows. Yeah. But what if you have a new product or something you're really excited about? Throw it in that top row as well to get it that exposure, to get more clicks, more views, more purchases.
Well, I've seen that before. And that's why I asked you earlier about if we go back to the sponsored brands ad, I've seen like Tide do this. They take their take their Tide product, and then next to it may be a different brand of P&G. Or a different version of it that maybe sells less because they're trying to promote it. If you were to advise these folks, Bocce, would you say, hey, instead of just showing your hero brand, maybe also feature your brand that you're trying to get off the ground or trying to gain market share with?
I would absolutely be advising them to show 3 products on there. I cannot think of a reasonable excuse for them to have just one. But I would imagine that is their top seller right there. I would expect. A good way to kind of gauge that is you can just look at the count of reviews behind a product, and that is a good proxy for its sales.
So let's go in. Now it's interesting. So let's go back to that because I think I don't want to gloss over this segment of sponsored brands. There are different things that are happening with the sponsored brands. So clicking on the very top title as well as shop Perugina took us to the Amazon store, but if I click on the product itself, it takes me directly to the product detail page. Right, a huge difference.
Absolutely. And that's one of the strengths of sponsored brands is you can drive them to the brand store, or maybe you just surfaced an ASIN that they just want to buy.
Hmm.
So in this case, you click directly on that because that's obviously you just want that specific dark chocolate bar. But if you were curious about browsing them, you could, click up into the store. But that also gets you precedence over sponsored products ads because those,
Mhm.
if they were executing with 3 ASINs up there, those are on top of all the sponsored products.
Wow. The imagery is nice. I got to tell you, like they have some very enticing, nice secondary images, as they're called.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you can direct them to the product page versus, or I should be in, or actually, and product page and your store, it's a very interesting proposition. As a owner, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, I don't love the fact that I'm going to get less return, but I guess I have to be willing to accept the fact that sponsored brands is a different lever. It's mainly used
Mm-hmm.
for, I guess, awareness. You do get some sales from it, and it is a product positioning thing that you're doing because there is a perception from what you're saying. And Dr. Byron Sharp is that when you seem like you're everywhere, the perception is that you are, and I guess that may create something in the mind that maybe I go with these guys because they're everywhere.
Absolutely. Like it's the idea of, well, everybody else must be buying this. It must be good, right?
Oh, it sounds like
Coke,
FOMO. Like, am I missing out on something?
I mean, Coke wouldn't be all over these aisles if it wasn't America's most popular soft drink. Same kind of proposition there. But
Indeed.
if we could back up too, one of
Yeah.
the cool things about sponsored brands, maybe we'll need to throw some other search terms in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different formats that you can run them. We kind of hit on that. Perugina here wasn't doing the best with just one. Type in laundry detergent, and we'll get right back to P&G, I bet.
Yeah. Laundry detergent. Ooh, laundry detergent sheets. Okay. Let's see what we get. Interesting. So this is, you know what? I like that. Let's look at a couple different examples of sponsored brands.
Yep.
So this one, you've got an interactive, you got a video versus a static thing. And something I learned recently was that we are hardwired for movement, very much like a dog would be. I mean, it's very primal, but we're very hardwired for movement, and movement, whether it be an ad or things moving on the screen, catches our attention more. And it seems like from what I was listening, I can't remember, it was on a podcast, we're more hardwired for that than if you're just looking at something that's just there on the screen, not moving. So my engagement rate, if we got the numbers, we'd probably find a higher engagement, probably higher click through on this Tide ad. Because look at how many elements move through the screen. So now you've got that swish, you've got up, and then you have the title shrinking. So you've got things all within 3 seconds, moving all at almost simultaneously.
Right, bright colors, high contrast, it grabs your attention.
Right. And look at here. They're trying to, poo-poo their competitor. I think this is Arm & Hammer by the look of that bottle. Right? How much more you can clean by stacking up all the clothes, right? They're definitely making a statement here. And getting to that other thing that we were talking about, how about featuring other products? Here they've got their Tide with Oxy. They have a lot of line extensions.
Yep.
That's the CPG word for it, right? One of their product line extensions is Oxy, and doesn't seem to take away from the fact that their leading product is just, I would imagine, plain old Tide.
Click on the video. Let's see where it takes us.
Okay. Takes us to the store.
All right, right.
Can I say something? I did not have never seen their store, but this is really interesting that they're throwing social proof at the top of the header, right? They got Tide, in our family, obviously that's almost given they're going to do something like that, but they threw in this kind of social proof on a survey. I may take a little bit of that myself and use some statistic that we can use. Number one, blah, 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 blah.
I'll tell you that P&G carefully vets every claim they make. So that one has got to be ironclad.
It says voted most trusted laundry brand by American shoppers based on 2023 Brand Spark American Trust Study.
Boom. Yep. So that's a very effective ad they have there. But P&G, they've kind of always been the leaders in advertising across all categories and formats. If you scroll down, though, is this a brand store with a
Yep. So brand store with the Tide Oxy, and then here we go. We got the pods. Let me ask you, given what you know about CPG, in my kind of, I do some of the laundry, right? And I don't do all of it, but I would have imagined they would position pods because that's the number one seller. I would think that's the most popular. You see the commercials, it's about pods, but interestingly, they didn't go with pods up here. They still went with a liquid.
You typed in laundry detergent as your search term, and there was a sponsored brands ad custom tailored to that. And I think for most consumers, when you think laundry detergent, it's got a handle, a spout, you pour it out. But I imagine they were expecting this is somebody looking for a liquid. So they serve you an ad for the liquid, you go to the liquid page. The pods are down there. Maybe they'll pick up a couple more sales, but they know where your mind already is. Just based on what you typed in up there.
Okay.
I bet if you typed in laundry detergent pod, you'd see a different ad.
Okay. With pods.
Is this thing listening to us? That's impressive.
There we go. Look at this.
Persil.
I don't think that's not P&G.
No, Persil is Henkel.
Oh, there you go.
Huh.
So it's interesting that one word made a difference. And let's look at the difference here. Mindset, I would imagine, is important. Persil would you say they're a value brand instead of a premium brand where you use that?
Yeah, I think that'd be the perception in America. They're big in Europe, not so much in the States.
And it shows a little in the sponsored brand. So if you were consulting Persil, you're getting hit with the Amazon basics on below them, and you're competing against Gain, which I would imagine. So that's P&G. They're positioning that keyword, right? And then you have the Tides. What would you say Persil could do better here if they were to make any changes on their sponsored brands?
Showing laundry pods would be a great place to start instead of a liquid, and then highlighting their ASINs in the sponsored brands ad. Man, I'm going to make a lot of marketers and salespeople upset with what I'm saying on this podcast.
Well, you have to. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Nick. When you operate on Amazon, and it took us a long time to understand this, is that the rules on Amazon are different. They're not like you're on Google, and then certainly in some ways not like if you're on an aisle in a store. There's some conceptual things, right? That you can borrow.
Linear TV.
Right, or linear TV, right? When you're on Amazon, the rules and the engagement and the shopping are very different. And you could break it down by how to approach this back end side from a keyword perspective and positioning versus the customer experience. But if you were going to do pods, maybe have pods. Maybe they don't have pods. Let's just check their.
Actually, what? Can we do one more search? Because there was one brand I remember it had some really great sponsored brands that I think we could show as an example. SodaStream.
You want me to use that SodaStream?
Yeah, if we could, I think that might provide a better.
It's one word.
I seem to recall them always having. There we go.
Okay.
That's a great example, actually. It's a branded search term. They won their own branded search term, which is good, important. And if you have a brand name, you need to be bidding on your own brand name. If you typed in SodaStream and some competitor came up, something's very wrong for SodaStream.
Interesting. Look at all of what comes up. And what's important to note, Nick, is that on Amazon, not everything is equal. Every category, Amazon has a different way of surfacing, fashion and clothing versus sponsored, versus packaged goods versus laundry versus electronics. You don't always get some of these these subcategories, like shop by category. SodaStream, right? Bottles. It's surfacing all these other subcategories.
All these components, really. You have the device, you have the consumable items, you have the durable items, you have the replacements for like the cartridges. But that sponsored brands at the top looks great though, because they have their logo, a really punchy catchline or tagline: "One SodaStream, endless possibilities." 3 distinct ASINs being shown off. Mountain Dew, delightful. And I'm betting that goes to a great sponsored, not sponsored,
Let's
but to
click
a
on it.
great brand store.
There, so the individual products are it seems like they've got them
Yep.
going to the product detail page.
Yep. And that's how it'll go across most of these. If you are putting the individual ASINs on, a click on that ASIN will drive you to the detail page. A click on the brand name or the tagline will take you to the brand store.
I take it this must be a new product because they only have 14 ratings and they're not flattering by Amazon standards. It's
Yeah,
only 2.7.
that is
Interesting to say the least.
Indeed. All right. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to really hit up. Can you actually scroll down? I want to see if there's a sponsored brands video that shows up in the results. Sometimes it will.
They're
There.
dominating that word because it's all them.
Yep.
And then here is
there we
Ninja
go.
Thirsty,
Ooh,
the next sponsored brand.
nice.
So sponsored brand can show up at the top. So essentially top of search would be the technical term you guys use. And then you could get hit with sponsored brands again, somewhere in the middle or down below. In this case, a video with Ninja Thirsty.
Absolutely. Which looks to be a direct competitor to SodaStream. But like you said earlier, motion attracts human attention. That's just what we're wired for. Even if I was just looking for this on my own, not on your podcast, I'd probably stop and watch this. It's an engaging video.
It is.
So again, this is more advanced. Once you've got your sponsored products, you're happy with it, you're getting your diminishing returns, that's the time to start looking at this. And then sponsored brands video, I would say, is one step above going into the sponsored brands. And you also need to have video production assets.
And talk about so a couple of things on sponsored brands. I know that Amazon has some type of video production services that you can click on in the back end if you want to get that. You have now an AI capability attached to sponsored brands, so you can generate images using AI in your product. And another thing they just rolled out was the vertical format. So essentially what UGC or content creators or influencers would create. So the mobile experience would be different. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh man, there's a lot of topics all at once. But I think the one you brought up at the end is the most interesting, is the vertical video. Because most folks are shopping on their phones. Well, not most. It's depends on the category, fairly even split. There's always a significant amount of people on mobile, and it's a different experience when you're doing that. And that vertical video really feeds into what the customer expects and what fits well on their phone as they are. Oh, there we go. Hey, Bose.
Yes.
And you can see this is a horizontal video. If you were searching on your phone, you'd probably be seeing it in a different format.
Correct. And that's what I was trying to see if we get any of those vertical surfaced on page one for things that would be more mobile type of searches.
An interesting thing on that video, though, actually, that's a great sponsored brands at the top. The video in the scroll, the sponsored brands video, when you scroll down.
Okay.
I think a point to kind of hit with that you see is look at the price on those.
$4.29.
The selling price, you can kind of infer from that it has a higher raw dollar profit, right? Even if the percentage is lower than some others, they have more actual dollars to spend on these bids. So when you're looking to do things that may have a slightly lower ROAS, like sponsored brands or sponsored brands video, especially profitable or expensive, preferably both products are really the ideal candidate for that. You wouldn't want to be doing sponsored brands video on a $5 package of paper clips, but on a $429 set of headphones. Yeah, you can afford to do that to pick up another couple sales.
Yes, absolutely. And side note, Gary V's VaynerMedia, I don't know if they're doing the e-commerce stuff, but I know that they picked them up as a client sometime last year.
Nice.
But one more thing. We're looking at we're deep diving into sponsored brands. This is a new format that wasn't available just months ago, where you have on the left the subcategories inside built into the sponsored brands, and then a carousel that scrolls through with the products. Why would I want to do this?
Well, that's going to depend. It depends, as they say in business school.
Back to the MBA.
If you have a complex catalog with very specific items, I mean, yours actually, this is your category, Rolando. your stuff isn't substitutable. A Bluetooth earpiece is not the same as a wired headset, not the same as a sound bar. All are being sold under the same roof of your store. How
Right.
do you make sure people are going to the part of your store that they actually want to see? I think it's pretty fundamental e-commerce. Every time there's a click involved in getting to the cart, you're going to lose customers. This is a way to remove a click. What is Zidnik?
It's probably an Asian brand, 100%. If we go in here, let's go here. I'm almost. I could bet it's going to be an Asian brand. And how do we know that? We go here under Add to Cart, under Buy Now. Here's Sold By, and it should take us to their like profile page. Oh,
Shenzhen Wonder. Okay, yep.
there you go. Ta-da! China.
Yeah,
There's the details. And you can read Chinese lettering, numbers, or whatever they are, characters, you'll know exactly what the business address is. I know Google Translate will do that for you, but that kind of name, a Z, they love Z's, Z's, and the name of the city within the name of the company. Like right here, Shenzhen Wonderhedge. I don't know why they the naming structure for their companies is that way, but that's just, most of them tend to be that way.
Yeah. But for them, for this challenger brand, we would call it, if they sell a variety of products, you would want to make sure that your customer can get to the right part of your store, right? Because they're looking for over-the-ear foldable wireless headphones. They're not going to be interested in a sound bar.
Over-the-ear Bluetooth headphones. Let's go there. Let's just click on that, and that brings you to their store. And they are a lower price product than Bose. I don't know quality wise.
They're almost suspiciously affordable.
That's right. They are. And here's the thing that when it comes to any category is that every business has to evaluate where they're going to be profitable in. Can you compete at $28, $26, run sponsored brands and still be profitable? Every business has to look at their P&L and their ad spend to determine that, because you may not be able to be top of search with the particular keyword. In this case, headphones, a huge category, lots of bidding going on. I guarantee you they're paying up the nose to get that number one slot on the brand side, on sponsored brand side, to be up there.
But overall, not a terrible placement. They could definitely do some creative work. Like you can see their brand, that could be an insurance company for all I know. Nothing about that really screams headphones.
Yeah.
But I like what they have on the right with the carousel. This is one of those things where, like, great in theory, they just need to work on the execution.
Yeah, as we saw with Tide, you have motion. I'm going to do one other one. I'm going to be specific here. I'm going to do Red Bull. They're a big brand. So just do a branded search. Let's see what interesting. So Red Bull has got a static image on the left. They've got their 3 ASIN lineup at the top. These look like probably their best product. Look at the reviews: 15,000, 18,000, 7,000, and below. They're bidding on their own, which is another thing we didn't get into, but they're bidding on their own term, their own brand term.
Yep.
Look at that! Holy smokes! The first 3 rows are all Red Bull.
That's actually a really good execution overall.
These are organic. These are sponsored, and sponsored brands is at the top. Wow.
But dang, that's actually a great example.
I'm going to give you one more. Monster energy drink. That's the one I want to do. Look at that.
And that is what we call conquesting.
I saw somebody on LinkedIn. That's why I wanted to throw this last one in as we wrap up here. The folks at Monster, either they don't know, or maybe they're not bidding high enough. I don't know what this could do long term for Monster if Red Bull stays up there, which was the question I asked you earlier. I love Monster. Is Red Bull gonna sway me because they're up there, or is it just, again, back to that perception that Red Bull's everywhere? Maybe there's some FOMO going on. I don't know. I'm missing out.
Some perception, but I'll tell you what, I'm actually a bit of a consumer of this category.
Tell me, give me some insight.
But when it comes to, I'm pretty agnostic as to which one I'm having as long as it's sugar free. So if I typed that in, I mean, I don't usually buy by the case. I might see those Red Bull sugar frees, and that might actually be appealing to me, especially as I start looking at prices. Because I got the Monster Zero in white. That is one of the ones I will drink sometimes.
Okay.
But most customers are not that brand loyal, so there's still a chance for them to pick it up. And it's a way for them again just to get up there, look popular, appear everywhere,
Okay.
and appear
All right.
popular.
Well, there you go. You have it from a energy drink drinker. All right. So if we were to summarize here, Nick, sponsored brand is not for the meek. You should expect a bit lower return on ad spend. It's going to be lower than your product sponsored products. It's good for awareness. It can drive traffic to your store. And there's different formats that you can use, vertical, horizontal, as well as different carousel, that can all play into the mix of sponsored brands. Was there anything else you wanted to leave us with?
Well, all I would say is just when you're looking at doing sponsored brands, first off, make sure you're doing sponsored products right. That's the first step. And then as you get into it, make sure that your sponsored brands tactics are fitting to your overall strategy and objectives. There's a lot of options out there, and you got to make sure that the ones you're doing support your overall plan. And this now is also where you start worrying about creative quality. I think we've seen it on some of the examples we looked at. That unknown headphone manufacturer had some pretty weak creative. But then you look at Red Bull and you're seeing their distinctive asset, those two bulls crashing in front of the sun, the design in their can grabs your attention. This is where bad creative can start really wrecking your overall returns and conversion. And you got to make sure that your creative folks are on the ball with that.
I love that. You end on the creative. It becomes more important, whether it's the video piece or the static images. So something to really think about as you're ramping up with sponsored brands. So this has been part 3 in our multi-part series on how to be an Amazon seller, a deep dive and peeling the curtain back on Amazon ads with subject matter expert Nick Gezzar. Now, we've got another part. If you want to join Nick and I, we'll be there and join you and nerd out some more. Thanks for joining us.